Shalom, Muadim L'Simcha. I am Rabbi Nathan Davidovich, speaking to you on behalf of the webyeshiva.org, speaking to you from Efrat, Israel, speaking to you from our beautiful sukkah. And the background that you see behind me is the back of our sukkah looking over our beautiful vineyards that are behind us. In this holiday of Succot, there's a very important message that I want to give to you. First of all, I apologize. At last week's shir that I gave, I told a story at the end, and I really compressed it, and I didn't do it justice. I was out of time, and I was trying to get it all in within about a minute or a minute and a half, and it did not do it justice. So I would like to tell you this story, and it's a story that is a phenomenal story. We recite it every year during the Sukkot holiday. You know, we're surrounded by God's presence in this sukkah. And we're commanded to be happy. And it's not enough to just be happy by yourself, but we have to make those around us happy. You have to make people smile. Make others smile. So this story that I'm going to tell you is a story that talks about how we can go about bringing people out of the depths of depression. And this is a story that Rabbi Shlomo Carlebach of blessed memory told. And it's a story about the Chassid of Karlin. Karlin, the Karlin Rebbe, Rabbi Aaron Hagadol was the first of the Karlin Rebbe. It was about 250 years ago in the 1700s. He was a disciple of the Maggid of Mezrich, who was a disciple of the Baal Shem Tov. So they tell this story about a little town. And in this town, there was a Chassid, a Karlin Chassid, who was very poor. And he could barely eke out a living. But he was extremely happy. Across the street from him was a very rich man. And this man had all of the luxuries in the world in this little town in Lithuania at the time. But he was never happy. The contrast was remarkable. For example, on Friday night, you'd hear the Karlin Chassid just singing, being happy, talking to his wife, to his children, singing Shabbat Zmirot. That's a Karlin Nigun. The Karlin Rebbe wrote that. And he's singing at the top of his lungs and just so happy. Meanwhile, across the street, you've got this rich man who has all the material things in the world, and all you hear from that house is shouting. He is shouting at his wife. His wife is shouting at him. They're shouting at the children. The children are shouting back at him. It's a horrible, horrible scene. And this rich man hears what's going on across the street. You know, they had the windows open. He could hear how happy this person was, and it just bothered him immensely that this person could be so happy. You know, he's a poor man. How can he be so happy? All right, we move forward to the time of Sukkot. Of course, the time of Sukkot we're in right now, we build our little temporary huts outside, and we move into these huts. We basically live there day and night. We eat there. We study there. We sing our songs there. So at Sukkot, the Karlin Chassid is so happy. He's singing. He's dancing. He's just bringing down the rays of heaven into his sukkah. And there's so much joy. You know, Sukkot is referred to as Zaman Simchotenu, the time of our joy, the season of our happiness. And he, in fact, is really fulfilling that to the last moment. The rich man on the other side of the street, now that they're both outside in their Sukkot, he hears his joy even more. And it's totally driving him crazy. And he says, I can't put up with this anymore. That's it. I'm going to make sure that next Sukkot, next year, he doesn't have a sukkah. How's he going to do that? He tells everybody in the town who are dependent on him for their income, if anybody gives any boards, any materials to build a sukkah to this Karlin Chassid, forget it. You're off the payroll. You have no money for your family. You can't buy food for your family. You're out. You're destitute. Comes Erev Sukkot, right before Sukkot the next year. And the poor man, it was his habit. He goes from neighbor to neighbor, asking to borrow a board, anything to put in the sukkah, schach, covering for the sukkah. And he went to the first one, and they told him, my dear friend, I love you so much. I love you like a brother, but I can't give you anything, because if I give you anything, my whole family will be destitute. And he got the same message everywhere that he went. And he's wondering what he should do. And he finally decides, he says, this is a small town. And there's a cemetery right here in this town. In those days, they didn't have money to put up stone monuments for somebody who died. They put up little wooden planks, and they put the name of the person on the plank. They had the Hebrew initials Pei Nun, which means Po Nitma, here is buried, and they put the name under it. And he says, it's not likely that many people are going to die during the Sukkot holiday in this little town. I'll take the planks from the cemetery, build my sukkah. After Sukkot, I'll return them, and it won't do any damage to anybody. He does that, and he builds a sukkah, and here comes the first night of Sukkot, and he's singing and cheerful and, as happy as can be. And the rich man across the street in his sukkah hears this. He says, what in the world is happening? How could he build a sukkah? I told everybody not to give him a single piece of wood. So he's furious. He goes over next door to the sukkah, knocks on the door. The Chassid opens the door. Oh, he says, welcome, Baruch haba. Thank you for coming to visit me in my sukkah. Let's have a l'chaim. Let's drink a toast. And the man is so angry. He says, how is it that you built the sukkah? I told everybody not to give you any materials. He said, I'll tell you what happened. I had a dream the night before Sukkot. And in this dream, I met my old friend, the Malach HaMavos, the angel of death. And I greeted him. I said, Shalom, what are you doing here in this town? He says, I've got a job to do. What is that? He says, I've got to take the soul of this rich man across the street from you. His time has come. So I told him, I said, look, brother, don't waste your time. This man is already dead. He is spiritually dead. He has no neshama. He has no joy in his life. He has only unhappiness. Don't bother. So the angel of death says, I'm so happy. Listen, I know you're having trouble trying to build a sukkah. Just take the planks from the cemetery, and then you return them afterwards. I'm not going to have nobody's going to be killed during this period of time. So he does that. He says, that's what I did, and I built my sukkah. Meantime, the rich man is hearing this, and he just turns white. Can't believe it. And he asks him, he says, I don't understand. I have everything, you have nothing, and you're happy all the time. How can I get such happiness? So he says, there's only one way you can do it. That's if you go and visit the Rabbi of Karlin. Go visit the Karlin Rav, and you'll see what joy is really about. And of course he went, and the end of the story is he became Karlin Chassid. He became a very happy person. And not only that, the rumor has it that he wrote a number of books. He was very close to the Karlin Chassid. So the message from this is that our job on this holiday of Sukkot, as all year long, is not to just be happy for ourselves, but to lift everybody up, to lift the downtrodden up. You see somebody who's unhappy, give them a reason to be happy. Talk to them. As Shlomo used to say, if somebody's walking on the street, he stops you, he says, brother, do you have the time? You look at him, he has a watch on his hand. He doesn't want the time. He knows what time it is. He wants somebody to talk to. Bring light. Bring the light of Sukkot into somebody else's life. That's the message of Sukkot. I wish everybody a wonderful Chag. Enjoy the rest of Sukkot. bask in the presence of God, which surrounds us completely in the sukkah, and spread that light, spread that happiness to everybody you meet. Chag Sameach and Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for listening on behalf of the webyeshiva.org. Shabbat Shalom v'Chag Sameach.